The metal bars felt cold against Kira's blue skin. She had stopped counting the days since the Valdorians threw her into this cage. Her once bright silver eyes had dulled to a lifeless gray. The collar around her neck hummed with energy, blocking her natural telepathic abilities and leaving her feeling more alone than she had ever been in her 23 cycles of life. She was dying. Not from wounds or poison, but from something her people called soul fade. When a Zalani was cut off from mental connection for too long, their life force simply faded away, like a flower without sunlight. The prison ship rocked gently in space. Through the small viewport in her cell, she could see the endless black dotted with distant stars. Somewhere out there was her home planet, Zealand Prime. She would never see its purple skies again. The Valdorians had captured her during a routine diplomatic mission. Her crime? Being born with stronger telepathic abilities than most of her kind. The Valdorian Empire feared what they couldn't control, and psychic species topped their list of threats. "Food," grunted the guard, sliding a tray through the slot. The gray paste looked as unappetizing as always. Kira didn't move from her corner. What was the point? She could feel her life force dimming with each passing hour. The guard, a massive Valdorian with 4 arms and scales that shifted from green to brown, sneered at her. "Eat or don't. Makes no difference. You'll be dead soon anyway." He was right. Kira closed her eyes and leaned her head against the wall. Maybe it was better this way. At least the pain would end. A sudden explosion rocked the ship, throwing Kira against the bars. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Red lights bathed everything in an ominous glow. The guard cursed in his guttural language and ran toward the commotion, leaving Kira alone. More explosions followed. The ship lurched violently. Through the chaos, Kira heard something that made her lift her head. Weapons fire, but not the distinct whine of Valdorian pulse rifles. This was different, sharp staccato bursts she didn't recognize. Screams echoed through the metal corridors, not screams of anger but of fear, Valdorian fear. In all her time as a prisoner, she had never heard them make such sounds. Heavy footsteps approached, different from the 4-legged gait of her captors. These were bipedal, measured, purposeful. A figure appeared in the dim corridor, and Kira's breath caught. It was unlike any species she had encountered. Tall but not towering, with 2 arms instead of 4. No scales or fur or feathers, just smooth skin in a shade of brown partially covered by strange black armor that seemed to absorb light. The being moved with a predatory grace that made even the Valdorians look clumsy. The creature, no, the warrior, turned toward her cell. Kira pressed herself against the back wall, unsure if she was trading one captor for another. The warrior approached, and in the red emergency lights she saw its face clearly. 2 forward-facing eyes, like a predator, a small nose and a mouth set in a grim line. Short black hair covered its head. It looked almost fragile compared to the bulk of a Valdorian, yet something in its bearing radiated danger. The warrior studied her for a moment, then spoke. The sounds were incomprehensible, but the tone was gentle. It raised a weapon, a blocky, primitive-looking thing, and fired at the lock. The metal sparked and melted. With one powerful kick, the door swung open. Kira remained frozen. The warrior entered slowly, hands visible, weapon lowered. It spoke again, softer this time. When she didn't respond, it reached for something on its belt. A small device. The warrior pressed a button and spoke into it. "Translation matrix online," a mechanical voice said from the device. The warrior spoke again, and this time Kira understood. "I'm not here to hurt you," the warrior said. Male, she realized from the voice. "My name is Marcus. I'm human. We're here to shut down this slave ship." Human. Kira had heard whispers of them. A new species from the edge of known space. The Galactic Council had dismissed them as primitives, barely worth notice, Yet here one stood, having somehow boarded a Valdorian prison ship. "Can you walk?" Marcus asked. Kira tried to push herself up, but her legs buckled. The soul fade had progressed too far. She collapsed, expecting to hit the cold floor. Instead, strong arms caught her. The human lifted her as if she weighed nothing. "Medical attention needed," Marcus said into a device on his shoulder. "Zalani female, critical condition. Some kind of collar suppressing her abilities." "Copy that," a voice responded. "Medbay is secure. Bring her here." Marcus carried her through corridors littered with unconscious Valdorians. No, not unconscious. Dead. Kira had never seen Valdorian bodies so broken. Their natural armor, which could deflect most energy weapons, had been punctured by primitive metal projectiles. "Your weapons," she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. "They're kinetic?" "Bullets," Marcus confirmed, adjusting his grip on her. "Your captors rely too much on energy shields. They don't stop good old-fashioned lead." Such a simple solution. The entire galaxy had moved to energy weapons millennia ago, considering kinetic weapons barbaric. Yet here was proof of their effectiveness. They passed more human warriors. Each moved with the same controlled efficiency. They communicated with hand signals and short verbal commands, clearing rooms and securing prisoners with practiced ease. Kira noticed they were freeing everyone, not just her. "Why?" she asked, as Marcus carried her into what had been the ship's medical bay. Several humans in different uniforms were already treating other prisoners. "Why risk yourselves for us?" Marcus set her gently on a bed. A human female immediately began examining her, paying special attention to the collar. "Because it's right," Marcus said simply, "and because we've been where you are." The medic, whose uniform tag read Chen, pulled out a strange tool. "This is going to hurt," she warned, then began cutting through the collar. Pain shot through Kira's neck, but then, blessed relief. The oppressive silence in her mind lifted. She could sense again, though weakly. "There we go," Chen said, tossing the collar aside. "Your abilities should return gradually, but you need nutrients and rest. The damage is extensive but not irreversible." Marcus stayed by her bedside as Chen hooked up various IV lines. Around them, other humans tended to rescued prisoners of dozen different species. A Cathari with broken wings, a Dalmak whose scales had been forcibly removed, even a young Vrex, despite their species' alliance with the Valdorians. "You saved them all?" Kira observed. "Every life matters," Marcus replied. "That's what makes us human." Strange philosophy for a warrior species. The galaxy operated on strict hierarchies. The strong dominated the weak. Yet these humans, clearly strong enough to take down a Valdorian ship, were using that strength to protect others. "The Valdorians will retaliate," Kira warned. "They don't forgive attacks on their ships." Marcus smiled. It was a predatory expression that reminded her he was a warrior, despite his kindness. "Let them try. We've been preparing." Another human approached, older, with gray streaking his hair and more decorations on his uniform. "Report, Sergeant." Marcus straightened. "Ship secure, Captain. 43 prisoners recovered, all receiving treatment. Valdorian crew neutralized." "Good work." The captain turned to Kira. "I'm Captain Rodriguez. You're safe now. We'll get you home once you're stable." "I don't understand," Kira said. "Humans are new to the galaxy. Why challenge the Valdorian Empire?" Rodriguez's expression hardened. "Because empires built on slavery and oppression need to fall, and because everyone deserves freedom." He left to check on other rescued prisoners. Marcus remained, pulling up a chair beside her bed. Kira studied him, trying to understand. His species had no scales for protection, no claws for fighting, no natural weapons at all. Yet they had taken down one of the most feared military forces in the galaxy. "How?" she finally asked. "How did we win?" Marcus guessed. She nodded. "We're persistent. Valdorians are used to enemies who fight by the same rules they do. Energy weapons, shield battles, formal declarations. We don't play by those rules." "You ambushed them." "We adapted, studied their weaknesses, exploited them." He leaned back. "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten very good at war, unfortunately. But maybe we can use that skill for something better now." Chen returned with a nutrient drink. "Small sips," she instructed. "Your system needs time to adjust." The liquid tasted better than anything Kira had consumed in months. She could feel strength returning to her limbs, though slowly. Around her, she sensed the mental signatures of other Zalani prisoners as their collars were removed. Their relief and joy washed over her in waves. "There are more ships," she told Marcus. "Prison vessels like this one, hundreds of them." "We know," he replied. "This is just the beginning." The casual confidence in his voice should have seemed like arrogance. Instead, Kira found herself believing him. If humans could take down one Valdorian ship, why not 100? "Rest now," Marcus said, standing. "We'll be in human space soon. You're under our protection." He turned to leave, but Kira caught his hand. His skin was warm, surprisingly soft, despite the calluses from weapons handling. "Thank you," she whispered. "I thought I would die in that cage." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "Not on our watch." "Never on our watch." As he left to help secure the ship, Kira lay back and closed her eyes. For the first time in months, she felt something she had thought lost forever: hope. The human space station looked nothing like the elegant crystalline structures of the Galactic Council or the fortress-like constructs of the Valdorians. It was all function over form. Metal and composite materials welded together in a design that prioritized efficiency. Yet to Kira, it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. "Welcome to Haven Station," Marcus said as their shuttle docked. He had stayed close during the 3-day journey from the prison ship, helping her regain her strength. "First human-built sanctuary station. We've got about 2,000 rescued individuals here now." 2,000. The number staggered Kira. The Galactic Council had written strongly worded protests about the slave trade for decades, accomplishing nothing. Humans had been in space for less than 5 years and had already saved thousands. The docking bay bustled with activity. Humans in various uniforms moved cargo and directed traffic. But what caught Kira's attention were the others, beings of every species imaginable, working alongside the humans. Free. A Teleron with iridescent wings guided a cargo sled. A family of Brecks, cubs and all, waited to board an outbound transport. Even a few Valdorians, identifiable by their 4 arms but lacking the military bearing of soldiers. Defectors, perhaps. "You allow Valdorians here?" Kira asked, unable to hide her surprise. "Not all Valdorians support the Empire," Marcus explained, helping her down the ramp. Her legs were steady now, though she still tired easily. "Some risk everything to escape. We judge individuals, not species." Such a strange concept. The galaxy operated on species-wide generalizations. All Zalani were telepaths. All Valdorians were warriors. All humans were... What? Kira still couldn't categorize them. Dr. Chen met them at the medical checkpoint. "Good to see you walking," she said warmly. "How are the headaches?" "Manageable," Kira replied. As her telepathic abilities returned, so did the challenge of filtering mental noise. "Your mental shields are surprisingly strong for a non-psychic species." Chen laughed. "We're full of surprises. Let's get you a full scan, then Marcus can show you to temporary quarters." The medical bay was larger than the shuttles. with equipment Kira recognized mixed with distinctly human devices. Chen ran her through various tests, nodding approvingly at the results. Recovery is progressing well. The soul fade damage is reversing faster than expected. Must be that Zalani resilience. She made notes on a tablet. I'm prescribing regular meditation sessions and gradual exposure to telepathic contact. Take it slow. After receiving a clean bill of health, Marcus led Kira through the station. The corridors were wide enough to accommodate the largest species, with grab rails at various heights. Signs displayed information in dozens of languages, including Zalani script. We tried to make it accessible for everyone, Marcus explained, noticing her observation. Took some engineering creativity, but humans are good at that. They passed common areas where beings of different species mingled freely. A human child played a game with a young Cathari, their laughter echoing off the walls. A group of adults attended what looked like a language class, struggling through basic human phrases. How do you feed everyone? Kira asked. The dietary requirements alone must be staggering. Hydroponic spays, protein synthesizers, and trade agreements with sympathetic worlds, Marcus replied. It's not easy, but we make it work. Humans are used to complex logistics. The quarters he showed her to were small but private, a luxury after months in a cage. A bed sized for her frame, basic furnishings, even a small viewport showing the stars. Marcus demonstrated the environmental controls, setting them to match Zealand Prime's atmosphere. Take your time settling in, he said. When you're ready, there are orientation sessions, job placement programs if you want to stay, or we can arrange transport to any safe world. Safe world, Kira repeated. Are there any left? The Valdorians control half the galaxy. Marcus's expression grew serious. That's changing. The rescue operations are just one part. Humanity is building alliances, sharing technology, teaching resistance tactics. The Valdorian Empire won't fall overnight, but it will fall. After he left, Kira sat on her bed and tried to process everything. Through her returning telepathic senses, she could feel the mental presence of others on the station. So many different thought patterns, yet all carrying the same undertone, hope mixed with determination. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door revealed a familiar face, another Zalani, older than Kira, with the characteristic silver hair of their species. Sister, the woman said in their native language, using the traditional greeting between telepaths. I am Vera. I heard we had a new arrival. Kira invited her in, grateful to speak her own language. Vera had been on the station for 6 months, rescued from a mining operation. The humans are unlike anything in our historical records, Vera said, sipping tea she had brought to share. They treat us as equals, not resources to be exploited or threats to be contained. It's unsettling at first. How so? We're used to hierarchies based on ability. The strong lead, the weak follow. But humans... Vera paused, searching for words. They protect the vulnerable while teaching them to protect themselves. They share knowledge freely. They seem to grow stronger by making others strong. It defied conventional wisdom. In a galaxy where power was hoarded, humans gave it away. Yet somehow they were winning against the Valdorian Empire. Have you decided what to do? Vera asked. Many stay and help with the resistance. Others return to their homeworlds to spread word of what the humans are doing. Kira hadn't thought that far ahead. Survival had been her only goal for so long. What do you do? I teach, Vera said proudly. Humans are eager to understand psychic abilities, not to weaponize them, but to defend against telepathic intrusion and to better communicate with species like ours. In exchange, I learned their meditation techniques. Did you know humans have their own forms of mental discipline? Primitive by our standards, but surprisingly effective. The next days passed in a blur of discovery. Kira attended orientation sessions. learning about humanity's short but eventful history in space, how they had achieved FTL travel through sheer stubborn determination, how their first contact with the Valdorians had nearly ended in disaster when the Empire tried to conquer Earth, only to find humans far more difficult to subdue than expected. "We're Deathworlders," explained Lieutenant Sarah Kim during one session. "Earth's gravity is higher than 70% of inhabited worlds. Our weather is chaotic, our wildlife is lethal, and we spent most of our evolution trying to kill each other. It made us tough and adaptable." She showed images of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, sprawling cities. "But it also taught us compassion. When you struggle to survive, you learn the value of working together. That's what we're offering the galaxy. Not human dominance, but human cooperation." Kira found herself drawn to the tactical briefings, where rescued individuals could learn about the ongoing resistance. The scope was staggering. Humanity had seeded rebellion across Valdorian space, providing weapons, training, and most importantly, proof that the Empire could be beaten. "The Valdorians rule through fear," Marcus explained during one session. He was one of the primary instructors, teaching guerrilla tactics to those interested. "They have superior numbers and technology, but they're rigid, predictable. We teach flexibility and improvisation." He demonstrated human combat techniques, adapted for different physiologies, speed and surprise over brute force, technology used in unexpected ways. Most shocking to Kira, humans shared their military knowledge freely, trusting others to use it wisely. "Aren't you afraid this information will be used against you?" she asked after class. Marcus shrugged. "Maybe. But the benefits outweigh the risks. Every successful rebellion weakens the Valdorians and strengthens the free systems. We're not trying to build a human empire. We're trying to make empires obsolete." Weeks turned into a month. Kira's abilities fully returned, stronger than before. The human doctors were fascinated by her recovery, documenting it to help other rescued telepaths. She found herself working with Dr. Chen, using her abilities to help traumatized rescuees who couldn't communicate verbally. "You have a gift for this," Chen observed, after a particularly difficult session with a young Vrex who had been experimented on. "Have you considered formal training? We're starting a xenopsychology program." The idea intrigued Kira. On Zealand Prime, her strong abilities had marked her for government service, willing or not. Here, she had choices. During off hours, she often found Marcus in the observation lounge, a large area with transparent walls offering a spectacular view of space. He would sit quietly, watching the stars, and she learned to appreciate the comfortable silence. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked one evening. "Every day," he admitted. "But this is where I'm needed. My sister was on a colony ship that went missing near Valdorian space. We never found out what happened to them. When I learned about the slave trade," he trailed off, jaw tightening. "Is that why you fight?" "Partly, but also because it's right. Humans have done terrible things to each other throughout history. Slavery, genocide, war. Maybe helping others avoid our mistakes is a kind of redemption." His honesty surprised her. Most species hid their dark histories, presenting only their accomplishments to the galaxy. Humans acknowledged their flaws while striving to be better. An alarm interrupted their conversation, not the screaming klaxon of an attack, but a steady pulse indicating incoming ships. Marcus checked his communicator and smiled. "Come on," he said. "You'll want to see this." They joined a crowd gathering in the docking bay. Through the energy field holding in atmosphere, Kira saw ships approaching. Not human vessels, but a mixed fleet. Cathari swift runners, Dolmak heavy cruisers, even a few Zalani star dancers, all bearing the same symbol, a raised fist breaking chains. "The Third Liberation Fleet," Marcus explained. "Completely multi-species trained in human tactics but fighting for their own freedom. They just completed their first major operation." The lead ship docked, and warriors of dozen species emerged. They moved with the same disciplined efficiency Kira had seen in human soldiers, but there was something more: pride, determination. They had taken their fate into their own hands. The fleet commander, a Cathari whose wings bore battle scars, approached Captain Rodriguez. 37 Valdorian supply depots destroyed, she reported. 600 prisoners freed, no casualties on our side. The crowd erupted in cheers. Rodriguez clasped the Cathari's arm in a human gesture of respect. Outstanding work, Commander. The Empire will feel this. As the celebration continued, Kira felt a hand on her shoulder. Vera had joined them, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Do you see?" the older Zelani whispered. "This is what the humans have given us, not just rescue, but the means to rescue ourselves." That night, Kira made her decision. When Marcus found her in the training room the next morning, practicing the combat moves he had demonstrated, he raised an eyebrow. "I want to learn," she said simply. "Everything. Combat, tactics, resistance organization. I want to go back out there and free others." Marcus studied her for a moment, then nodded. "The training is hard. Humans push themselves to their limits and beyond. Can you handle that?" Kira thought of the cage, the collar, the despair of soul fade. She thought of others still trapped, waiting for death or rescue. Her telepathic abilities flared, broadcasting her determination. "I'm Zelani," she said. "We're stronger than we look, just like humans." Marcus smiled, that predatory expression that no longer frightened her. "Then let's get started. Welcome to the Resistance." The Valdorian fortress hung in space like a metallic cancer, bristling with weapons and surrounded by a fleet of warships. From the bridge of the Liberation vessel, Freedom's Call, Kira studied their target through the tactical display. 2 years of training had transformed her from a dying prisoner into a resistance fighter, but her stomach still knotted at the sight. "Scared?" Marcus asked quietly. He stood beside her, now bearing the rank of commander. Time and battle had added new scars to his collection, but his eyes remained kind. "Terrified," Kira admitted. Her telepathic senses were carefully shielded, preventing the enemy from detecting her presence. "This is different from supply raids." "Fear keeps you sharp," Marcus replied. "It's what you do despite the fear that matters." Around them, the bridge crew prepared for battle. Humans, Cathari, Dolmak, Zelani, and a dozen other species worked in perfect coordination. The resistance had grown from desperate refugees to a military force that made the Valdorian Empire tremble. Captain Rodriguez, promoted to admiral but still preferring his old title, addressed the fleet. His image appeared on screens throughout the 40 ships under his command. "Today we strike at the heart of their slave trade," he began. "Installation Kappa 7 processes 10,000 captives a month. Guards, collar manufacturers, sorting facilities. It all ends today. Remember your training. Trust your teammates. Let's bring our people home." The crew cheered. Kira felt their determination through her mental barriers. A psychic war cry that would have driven her mad 2 years ago. Now she drew strength from it. "Strike teams to shuttles," Marcus commanded. "Operation begins in T-minus 30 minutes. Kira followed him to the hangar where their team waited. 8 fighters from 6 different species, all wearing modified human combat armor. She had trained with each of them, trusted them with her life. "Listen up," Marcus briefed them one final time. "We're Team 3. Our objective is the collar control center. Destroy that, and every suppression device in the facility fails. Kira, you're our ace. Once those collars drop, we need you coordinating the telepathic species to help with evacuation." She nodded, checking her equipment. The projectile weapon felt strange in her hands, even after months of practice. Zelani were pacifists by nature, but the galaxy had taught her that sometimes violence was necessary to protect peace. 2 minutes to engagement range, the pilot announced. Through the shuttle's viewport, Kira watched the human fleet spread into attack formation. The Valdorians responded predictably, forming defensive lines, powering up their energy shields. They hadn't learned. Even after 2 years of defeats, they still expected enemies to fight by traditional rules. The first human ships fired, not energy weapons, but missiles loaded with chaff and electromagnetic disruptors. Valdorian sensors went blind. Their precisely coordinated fleet suddenly became 40 individual ships, unable to communicate. "Classic human warfare," muttered Tok. "Their Dolmak heavy weapons specialist. Destroy the enemy's ability to fight together." The Liberation Fleet punched through confused Valdorian lines. Kinetic weapons, ignored by energy shields, tore through hull armor. Boarding pods latched onto the fortress like metallic leeches. The shuttle lurched as they entered the combat zone, pilot weaving between defensive fire. "Hang on!" the pilot shouted. "This is gonna be rough!" The shuttle slammed into the fortress hull, cutting torches immediately going to work. Kira's team stood ready, weapons aimed at the growing hole. The moment it was large enough, they poured through. The corridor beyond was chaos. Valdorian guards scrambled to respond to multiple breaches. Alarms wailed. Emergency lights cast everything in hellish red. Team 3 moved with practiced efficiency, Marcus leading and calling out targets. "Contact left," he barked. His rifle chattered, primitive bullets punching through a guard's armor. Kira forced herself to fire, watching the Valdorian fall. Each kill went against her people's nature, but the alternative, leaving thousands enslaved, was worse. They fought through 3 checkpoints, losing none of their team, though Tok took a glancing energy beam to his shoulder. The Dolmak just growled and kept fighting, his natural armor absorbing most of the damage. "Control center ahead," Jax, their Cathari scout, reported. "Heavy resistance, at least 20 guards." "Smoke and breach," Marcus ordered. "Kira, stay back until we clear the room." They moved like a single organism. Smoke grenades obscured Valdorian vision. The team burst through, using cover and crossfire to overwhelm defenders. Kira waited, hating her protected status, but understanding the logic. If she died, thousands of telepathic prisoners would remain trapped in mental silence. "Clear!" Marcus called. She rushed into the control center, immediately moving to the main console. Valdorian text scrolled across screens. Prisoner manifests, collar frequencies, suppression protocols. Her training took over, fingers flying across the interface. "How long?" Marcus asked, his team holding the doorway against reinforcements. 3 minutes, Kira replied. The system was complex, but humans had taught her electronic warfare alongside combat training. Every species brought strengths to the resistance. Hers was the ability to think in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Gunfire intensified. A grenade explosion shook the room. One of their fighters, Sarah, a human woman who had taught Kira card games, fell with a cry. The medic dragged her to cover, working frantically. "Whatever you're doing, do it faster," Marcus shouted. Kira blocked out the chaos, focusing on the code. There, the master control protocol. She input the shutdown sequence, praying the intelligence was correct. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then every screen in the facility went dark. Throughout the fortress, thousands of suppression collars deactivated. Kira's mental shields nearly shattered as telepathic voices flooded her consciousness. Confusion, fear, desperate hope. The cacophony of suddenly freed minds. "Sisters and brothers," she broadcast, using every ounce of her trained power. "You are free. The humans and their allies have come. Follow evacuation protocols. Telepaths. Link with me to coordinate." The response was immediate. Dozens, then hundreds of minds connected to hers. She became a living communication network, directing freed prisoners to evacuation points, warning of danger, coordinating with other telepathic resistance fighters. "Fall back to the shuttle," Marcus ordered. "Objective complete." They carried Sarah between them, the medic having stabilized her wounds. Kira maintained the mental network while moving, a feat that would have been impossible before human training. The corridors were pandemonium now, freed prisoners overwhelming remaining guards, resistance fighters herding evacuees to rescue ships. A massive Valdorian blocked their path, 4 arms raising weapons. Before Kira could react, a group of freed prisoners swarmed him. They had no weapons but rage and desperation. The guard went down under sheer numbers. "Move! Move! Move!" Marcus urged them forward. They reached the shuttle as the fortress shook from internal explosions. Other teams had completed their objectives. Weapons destroyed, slave records wiped, the entire facility crippled. Kira maintained her mental network until the last possible moment, ensuring every telepath knew where safety lay. "Get us out of here!" Marcus yelled to the pilot. The shuttle detached, racing away from the dying fortress. Through the viewport, Kira watched escape pods and rescue ships fleeing in all directions. The Valdorian fleet, still reeling from the initial attack, could only engage a fraction of them. "We did it," she thought, then broadcast it to every linked mind. "We're free." The mental cheer that answered nearly knocked her unconscious. Joy, relief, gratitude, emotions too powerful for words flooded through the network. Only Marcus's steadying hand kept her upright. "You did good," he said simply. Back on Freedom's call, the bridge erupted in celebration as reports came in. 8,000 prisoners rescued, the fortress was gutted, and its supporting fleet scattered. Most importantly, the collaboration between species had worked perfectly. "Casualties?" Admiral Rodriguez asked. 43 killed in action, the tactical officer reported somberly. 200 wounded, but compared to what we achieved... "Every loss matters," Rodriguez said firmly. "We'll honor them properly. But today we showed the galaxy that the Valdorian Empire can be broken, not by one species, but by all free peoples working together." In the medical bay, Kira sat with Sarah as the human woman recovered. Her wounds would heal, though she'd carry scars, another price of freedom. "Hell of a first major op for you," Sarah said weakly. "How you holding up?" "I killed today," Kira admitted. "My people are taught that all life is sacred, that violence solves nothing. But those guards would have killed us, kept thousands enslaved." "The hardest lesson humans learned," Sarah replied. "Sometimes you have to fight to protect peace. Doesn't mean you enjoy it. Means you're strong enough to do what's necessary." Later, Kira found herself back in the observation lounge. The fleet had jumped to hyperspace, heading for safe harbor to offload rescued prisoners. Through the swirling colors of FTL travel, she contemplated how much had changed. Marcus joined her, as she knew he would. They had developed an easy companionship over 2 years, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. "The Valdorians will escalate," she said. "This was too big to ignore." "Let them," Marcus replied. "Every atrocity they commit drives more systems to our side. They're an empire in decline, lashing out as they fall. And after, when the empire falls, we build something better. The Free Systems Alliance, maybe. Species working together by choice, not force. Humans don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want everyone to have the chance to rule themselves." Such a simple dream, yet revolutionary. Kira thought of her homeworld, still under Valdorian occupation. But now she had hope. The resistance grew stronger each day. What started with a single human ship had become a movement spanning the galaxy. "I received a message from home," she said quietly. "Encrypted, through resistance channels. My sister lives. She's organizing cells on Zalan Prime, preparing for liberation." "We'll get there," Marcus promised. "Every freed world becomes a base for freeing others. The Valdorians can't fight on 1,000 fronts. A chime announced someone seeking entry. The door revealed Vera, the elder Zalani who had welcomed Kira 2 years ago. But now she wore combat armor and carried herself like a warrior. "Kira," she said warmly, "I heard about your performance today. Coordinating 800 telepaths while under fire? The Academy will want to study your techniques." The Academy, another human innovation. A training center where different species shared knowledge, creating warriors who combined the best of all worlds. Kira had graduated in the first class, and now they wanted her to teach. "After we free Zelen Prime," Kira said. "I have work to finish first." "We all do," Vera agreed. "But that's what makes us strong. Not human weapons or Cathari speed or Zalani telepathy. Purpose, unity, the will to see others free." She left them to their contemplation. Outside, hyperspace swirled in patterns that hurt to perceive directly. Somewhere beyond, the war continued. The Valdorian Empire still controlled vast territories, still enslaved millions. But they were losing. Each raid, each freed world, each species that joined the resistance tipped the balance. Humans had shown the galaxy a simple truth. Together, the oppressed were stronger than their oppressors. "I never thanked you properly," Kira said suddenly. "For saving me that day." "You've thanked me every day since," Marcus replied. "Every life you've saved, every prisoner you've freed. That's the best thanks any of us could ask for." "Still," she reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers. "Such different species, yet united in purpose. You gave me hope when I had none. Gave all of us hope. The galaxy will remember that long after the last Valdorian fortress falls." Marcus squeezed gently. A gesture she had learned meant affection among humans. "The galaxy will remember all of us. Human, Zalani, Cathari, everyone who stood up and said no more. That's the real victory." Through their joined hands, Kira let her mental barriers lower slightly. She shared the memory of her rescue, the despair transformed to hope. But more than that, she shared what she had learned since. That humans' greatest strength wasn't their weapons or tactics. It was their belief that everyone deserved freedom, and their willingness to die for strangers to achieve it. The observation lounge filled with others as news of their successful missions spread. Different species mingled freely, sharing stories, mourning losses, celebrating victories. Former slaves and natural warriors united in common cause. Tomorrow would bring new battles. The Valdorian Empire would strike back viciously. More would die before freedom reached every world. But tonight, Kira stood among friends and allies, no longer a prisoner but a liberator. The human warrior who had appeared in her darkest hour had given her more than rescue. He had given her the tools to rescue others, and that, she knew, was humanity's true gift to the galaxy. Not conquest, but the courage to resist. Not dominance, but the strength to lift others up. The stars called to them through hyperspace, promising battles to come. Kira answered that call gladly, a telepath turned warrior, fighting alongside the species that had taught the galaxy's oppressed to save themselves. The cage that once held her was empty. Soon, every cage would be.